the heavy dining table that had been a wedding present from her parents. Whoever heard of a dining set with 5 chairs, for heaven's sake? It simply wasn't right. Why, if he wanted a chair to drag off to the back of the house, leave out in all weathers, she'd buy him a garden bench or a deck chair. That wasn't the point, he said. He needed to feel comfortable. The chair was what he was used to. It didn't give way under his bulk, as a deck chair would. It fit his shape, as he supposed a garden bench would not. And besides, he said, whenever she opened her mouth to protest, hadn't the set been given to both of them? Why shouldn't he have as much say in what happened to the furniture as she did, even if this was the first time in their 47 years of married life that he'd chosen to exercise it? It seemed pointless to remind him about the attention she had lavished all over her furniture over the years, how she always polished the wood until it gave off a warm, dark shine, how every little scratch and watermark and sticky fingerprint had to be expunged immediately with her armory of wood stain, beeswax polish, and white vinegar. If he couldn't see for himself the care she'd taken in every aspect of running his household, more fool him. What was she getting so upset about, he asked. The dining set had never been used much. Even when the kids were growing up, they ate all their meals in the kitchen. The dining room was only used at Easter and Christmas, when the family, stiff in new clothes, ate from bone china that Maggie kept only for such special occasions. That was the point, she protested. The dining furniture held special memories for her, and she used tears, the final defense of any woman, to try to win her case. Unmoved, Tulliver worked like stealth. He waited until she was occupied in the kitchen each time before he dragged the chair out into the garden and set it in his favorite spot beneath the apple tree where he could watch the world go by. Maggie had learned from long experience that nagging Tulliver was only counterproductive. She waited until he vacated the chair and carried it back inside, fussing over it with her polishing rag. But next morning, the chair would be out in the garden again, and Tulliver sitting on it for the best part of the day when the weather was fine. A pity he couldn't think of something more useful to do, she thought, but at least it meant that he wasn't under her feet all day. She still had her routine to follow, and had to be sure that standards in the house didn't slip. By the time Tulliver suffered his first stroke, the chair was well and truly ruined, and there didn't seem to be any point in bringing it inside again. Most of the varnish was gone, and the exposed wood was rough and dry. It gave her physical pain to see it like this. She thought vaguely that she might one day take it to the antique shops in town that specialized in renovating old furniture. The stroke left Tulliver paralyzed on his left side, and his speech slurred. He was still determined to sit in the garden, and she had to support him as he shuffled to his chair. He seemed cheerful enough as he called out to passers-by and waved his good hand at them. It was only a matter of weeks before the second stroke carried him off in his sleep. After the funeral, Maggie didn't have the heart to bring in the chair. She sat in the garden through the late autumn frost. It sat in the garden through the late autumn frost and the worst winter the town had seen for a decade. It was bleached white in places by exposure to the elements, and small cracks had begun to appear in the wood. But then spring arrived. Sun broke through the clouds one rain-washed morning with a promise of fine weather to come. Maggie felt a little guilty at leaving her housework unfinished, but she carried her morning cup of coffee out into the garden. Surely, just once, she could take a day off. She sat gingerly in the chair, Tulliver's chair. A fresh breeze ruffled the top of the grass, which had grown long and sweet around the legs of the chair. It stirred the daffodils and jonquils that had burst from the bulb they had planted together one day when the children were small. Tiny buds were just beginning to burst into new leaves on the apple tree, and she watched a fat thrush hop in the tangled undergrowth in search of worms. A woman she'd never seen before passed by and remarked that it was a lovely day, wasn't it? And Maggie smiled back. She tilted her head to enjoy the warmth of the spring sunshine on her face, wondering for the first time what Tulliver had thought about as he had sat there. But as the morning drew on, it struck her that sometimes it was just nice to think about nothing at all. It was going to be a beautiful summer.